tonight.
Victory here is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump.
The winner in the New Hampshire Democratic primary sets his sights on President Trump.
We are here to stay.
Democrats feeling the burn, with Pete Buttigieg hot on his tail. Plus,
we are concerned about Congress's actions.
Critics speak out as Democrats prepare for a full House vote to revive the Equal Rights Amendment. And Democratic candidates speak out on pro-life Democrats. The latest on the 2020 campaign trail. All this and more on Faith Nation.
Historic turnout in New Hampshire, but not for who you're probably thinking. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. A record-setting night in New Hampshire. And while most have been focusing on Democrats there, it was President Trump who made history in the Granite State last night.
Mr. Trump surpassed every incumbent president seeking re-election in the last 4 decades with a record-setting number of votes. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with the breakdown. Ben?
Well, John, Jenna, Democrats largely own the turnout in New Hampshire, as you guys were talking about, but President Trump didn't face a serious challenger in New Hampshire, but he did make headlines when his voter turnout surpassed incumbents going back to Ronald Reagan. Trump more than doubled the amount of voters former President Barack Obama did back in 2012. The president is the only incumbent out of the group to break 100,000 votes. Former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld was Trump's primary challenger with less than 10% of the GOP vote. Trump tweeted about it, and his campaign says it is a sign the Republican base is all in on Trump as he prepares for the November election. But today, the White House fielded questions shortly right here behind me, not about the New Hampshire votes, but on Roger Stone, longtime friend and advisor of President Trump. The big question in Washington, did President Trump pressure Justice Department prosecutors to propose a lenient prison sentence? He lashed out at prosecutors on the case who recommended that Stone serve 7 to 9 years in prison for witness tampering, lying to Congress, and obstructing a congressional investigation into Russia meddling in the 2016 election. Following Trump's remarks, the Justice Department changed course and withdrew their recommendation sentence, which prompted all 4 prosecutors to quit Stone's case.
No, not at all. He was treated very badly. 9 years recommended by 4 people that perhaps they were Mueller people. I don't know who they were, prosecutors. And they, I don't know what happened. They all hit the road pretty quickly.
A new prosecutor assigned to the case today said 7 to 9 years was not appropriate. We'll hear more from President Trump later tonight at a political fundraiser at his hotel right here in D.C. John, Jenna?
All right, Ben Kennedy at the White House. Thanks, Ben. Well, a shakeup among Democrats last night in New Hampshire. Bernie Sanders came out on top, but not by much.
Yeah, Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar were close behind. And a disappointing night for former frontrunners Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren.
CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson peels back the numbers after the first-in-the-nation primary. Abigail?
Well, that's right. In a contest where most Democratic voters said they're looking for someone who can beat Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders took the top slot.
This victory here is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump.
But Pete Buttigieg's strong second-place showing makes him the clear alternative to moderates who see Sanders' socialist policies as too extreme.
A campaign that some said shouldn't be here at all has shown that we are here to stay.
Buttigieg and Sanders split the New Hampshire delegates, giving Buttigieg a slight lead after his Iowa victory. Senator Amy Klobuchar, another moderate influence, took a surprisingly strong third-place finish, getting a big boost from her debate performance last week.
What we've been is steady, we've been strong, and we've never quit. I think that sounds pretty good for a president. But across the months and months and miles of this race, we redefined the word grit.
Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren, once frontrunners, both finished with single-digit support. Biden left the state early to get to South Carolina, where he hopes for a big win among black voters to keep him in the race.
Where I come from, that's the opening bell, not the closing bell.
Andrew Yang and Senator Michael Bennet have dropped out. After spending some $200 million on TV ads, Michael Bloomberg is gaining ground in national polls, but he's not on the ballot until Super Tuesday. He's facing new criticism after a recording from 2015 surfaced, in which he defends his controversial stop and frisk policy in minority communities as New York mayor. Bloomberg apologized for the policy months ago, just days before launching his presidential campaign.
The political spotlight quickly shifts now to Nevada, where Democrats will hold caucuses on February 22nd. But the candidates will be storming several states in the days leading up to Super Tuesday on March 3rd.
All right, thank you, Abby. Here now, CBN Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, won the primary in neighboring New Hampshire. But if you listen to Pete Buttigieg's speech last night, it sounded like he won the New Hampshire primary.
Well, right, and Pete Buttigieg, of course, is used to declaring victory with 0.0% of the vote in Iowa. So, but anyhow, you're right, he did, because he clearly finished a close second to Bernie, and that's a victory for Buttigieg for sure. And now you've got 1-2 finish in Iowa for Buttigieg, 1-2 finish in New Hampshire, and now we move on to Nevada. But hold on, after that, South Carolina. That's key. I want to see how Buttigieg does with African Americans, especially black religious Americans down there in South Carolina. He's got to do well. If he does well there, boy, he could be on his way to potentially the nomination.
David, we see who has the momentum. Sanders, Buttigieg, Klobuchar. How important is that momentum moving forward?
Oh, it's very, very important, especially for Klobuchar. She lives to see another day, another state, if you will. But, you know, at the same time, it's all going to come down to Super Tuesday, March 3rd. California, Texas, big states vote, and many other states as well. And that's what Michael Bloomberg is hoping to capitalize on. So the whole trajectory of the race should be well-defined after Super Tuesday. If Bernie Sanders can get a significant delegate lead, he may be very hard to stop. That's why Nevada, I'll figure it out a little bit. Thank you. Nevada and South Carolina are crucial before Super Tuesday.
Let's talk turnout. Another person on the ballot that we haven't been talking about was President Trump. He more than doubled President Obama's numbers in New Hampshire, also George W. Bush. What does that portend?
Well, that gives you a sense that the base is not just energized, but they're really angry and energized. And you know, Reagan back in the day, here I'm dating myself, John, I know, in 1984, he won 49 of 50 states. Okay, Trump's not going to win 49 of 50 states, but you get the same sense that there is this movement afoot that started back in 2015 when he came down the escalator, and it's even gone into uncharted territory. I think that's where we are. I think we're in uncharted territory for Donald Trump. He may reach his highest number in 2020. He's going to need it no matter who the candidate is, because even if the Democrats can't get their act together, they're still going to be motivated to get out and vote and defeat this president. We
mentioned Michael Bloomberg. It looks like is open an office in New Hampshire. This after New Hampshire's primary. David, what does this tell you?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out Bloomberg. You know, I know it's March 3rd. He's going for it, but you know, everybody's in New Hampshire and Iowa, and he's somewhere in Detroit or Tennessee. You know, which of course Tennessee is a Super Tuesday state, so he obviously is doing that. New Hampshire, I guess maybe the general election, but maybe you might want to win the Democratic primary first, or at least one primary state before you think about opening a general election headquarters.
Well, he has said that he's running against Trump and not any of these Democrats. Is that a good strategy?
Yeah, I think he has to have that strategy, and here's why. If he tries to run against the Democrats, which he clearly has to beat the Democrats, then he's going to come up with a few issues in his resume. The stop and frisk policy that we heard about. He wants to tax sugary objects or sugary sodas and all of that because, and this is what he said, this is a quote from him, he wants to raise, this is his quote, he wants to raise taxes on poor people, is what he said. In the Democratic Party, he wants to raise taxes on poor people because he thinks that if you tax a sugary soda, then they won't buy it, and if they don't buy it, it won't lead to obesity, and therefore they'll live longer lives. I mean, this is what Bloomberg is proposing. That doesn't play well in a Democrat primary at all.
David,
taxing the poor? Sorry, please.
No. David, we're a few weeks away from Super Tuesday. When will we likely see a nominee?
Right. Well, so there's two scenarios here, okay? I think if Bernie gets through Super Tuesday with a significant delegate lead, which is possible, then we could see it right after Super Tuesday. It's going to be the Bernie bandwagon, and we're all on that train as we talked about, the Leningrad. I mean, there it goes. We're on our way. If, for some reason, moderates can stop him, and what I mean by stopping him is between South Carolina, February 29th, and Super Tuesday, March 3rd, those key 4 days, if they can coalesce, have some sort of coalition, Klobuchar, Biden, Buttigieg, whoever survives out of those folks after South Carolina, if they can speak with one voice to say, in essence, we have to stop Bernie, but they do it before March 3rd, that'll be crucial, and let that one candidate, whoever it is, go up against Bernie, and of course Bloomberg too. So that's the way they're going to have to do it. Cruz and Rubio had a chance to take out Trump by doing that coalition. They didn't do it. Trump's the president. This might be the Democrats' only chance to stop Bernie. They have to do it before Super Tuesday.
All right, CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
Coming up, the Equal Rights Amendment gaining momentum. When we come back, why some say it doesn't live up to its name.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faithwire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Welcome back. Well, tonight on Capitol Hill, new efforts to revive the expired Equal Rights Amendment.
Tomorrow, the full House is expected to vote on a resolution to remove the deadline for states to ratify it. If approved by the Senate, it would allow the amendment known as the ERA to be added to the Constitution after Virginia last month became the 38th state to approve it. Today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi joined ERA proponents ahead of the vote.
Here we are in this Congress, during which time we will observe the 100th anniversary of women having the right to vote, and the ERA is still not enshrined in the Constitution. As a result, women still face inequality under the law. With this resolution, we take a giant step toward equality for women, progress for families, and a stronger America.
But many legal experts and critics say this latest effort by Democrats won't fly, adding that women already enjoy equal rights protections under the Constitution.
Well, here with us now is Penny Nance, CEO and President of Concerned Women for America. Penny, thanks for being with us.
It's great being here. Thanks for
Penny,
having me.
on the surface, the Equal Rights Amendment sounds pretty uncontroversial, non-controversial, something on which we can all agree. But your organization says if it becomes law, the ERA would actually remove protections for women. Explain.
In a couple of ways, actually. The ERA, let's just remember, the ERA is something that's been around since the 70s and actually couldn't gain enough traction, enough states to actually become law. It was never ratified by 38 states. A couple of states added it later. Virginia was the last just recently, but that timetable had expired. And meanwhile, several states wanted to rescind the ratification. So that's why Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that they needed to start over. Proponents need to start over legally for it to actually happen. But beyond that, this is an issue, and I'm not just saying this, NARAL has specifically told their constituents that this is about breaking down any prohibitions in any state against abortion. This is really about creating the inevitability on a federal level for abortion to be illegal, any reason, any number, all paid for by the taxpayer. And, you know, this is not just something we've made up. We've already seen it happen in both Connecticut and in New Mexico, in which they use state ERAs to break down the ability for there to be limitations on taxpayer funding for abortion. So there's a couple of different issues. There's the issue of abortion on demand that this would create, and then also, of course, there's about 800 laws that are sex-specific, that particularly protect women, like the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, the Equal Opportunity Act, others that have specific protections for women. And this would take away the ability for there to be sex-specific legislation. And it's the opposite of what it claims to be. It actually is very hurtful and harmful to the well-being of women. And, you know, we're going to stand forth and speak truth into it.
To your point, this would remove legal distinctions of gender. Penny, what would the implications there be, and what's kind of the fear?
Well, and you kind of touched on it there when you said the word gender. The question of our day, really, and we're seeing it play out through the Equal Opportunity, or through the Equality Act, we're seeing it in court cases, is the definition of sex. Does sex mean male and female, biological sex, or does it mean however you feel? And if you break down the distinction that there is certain rules that need to protect women, that biological women need specific help, maybe it has to do with laws dealing with sex crimes. Should women be forced to register for to be in the military? So that, which was an early issue, right? So that's the question of the day. Do we deserve special protection in certain areas because biologically we need them, or should those all end?
Penny, you alluded to this in the last answer. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, one of the liberal icons of the bench, said that she would like to see the effort start over. If that's how she feels, what does that say about how this legislation would fare if it was held up in a potential court battle?
Well, in a court battle, I think that they would lose based on the facts of the case. You even have, again, Ruth Bader Ginsburg could not vote with them. And so, and she's the far left of the court. So I think that it's important, though, that we speak into this issue because it sounds so pretty. It's really about everything relating to abortion. That's what the ERA really stands for.
What are you encouraging your supporters to do on this issue?
They need to talk to their senators. They need to, you know, and of course the House is voting, I think, tomorrow on this. So they need to talk to the House members and senators and speak out against it. And as women, and remember, it's women that defeated the ERA the last time. Concerned Women for America came into being because Beverly LaHaye was out front working along with Phyllis Schlafly and others in order to speak up for women, speak up for the unborn, speak up for women who were receiving Social Security benefits because they were widows or they were homemakers. All of that's at risk.
All right, Penny Nance with Concerned Women for America.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
God bless you.
You too.
Well, when we come back, is there room in the Democratic Party for people who are pro-life? What Democratic candidates are saying.
Yeah, I got that.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
on the Homefront, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Welcome back. Well, some pro-life Democrats may feel crowded out of the big tent as they try to find a place in the party.
Yeah, this is Democratic presidential candidates like Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg tell voters to make no mistake, Democrats are pro-choice.
I am a proud pro-life Democrat. So do you want the support of pro-life Democrats, pro-life Democratic voters? There are about 21 million of us.
But I'm not going to try to earn your vote by tricking you. I am pro-choice. And I believe that a woman ought to be able to make that decision.
I think being pro-choice is an absolutely essential part of being a Democrat.
Well, Amy Klobuchar has a different, more inclusive sounding take.
I am strongly pro-choice. I have always been pro-choice, but I believe we're a big tent party, and there are pro-life Democrats, and they are part of our party, and I think we need to build a big tent. I think we need to bring people in instead of shutting them out.
And here now for more is the woman who got all of this started, pitching that first question you saw to Pete Buttigieg over whether there's room in the party for pro-life Democrats. Kristen Day is the executive director of Democrats for Life of America, and she joins us now. Kristen, good to have you. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having this discussion.
So, you say in a recent USA Today op-ed that pro-life Democrats are getting pushed out by the party by abortion extremists. That's our big question here. Is there room in the big tent party for people like you who are pro-life?
There absolutely should be, but the problem is that the platform has gotten to a point where there's no room for people like me because it says there's an unequivocal support for abortion up to 9 months, and taxpayers will pay for it. We were successful in prior platform processes to get language that was more inclusive and left room for pro-life Democrats, but this current language that was passed in 2016 leaves no room. And so right now there's an opportunity to rewrite that platform language because we rewrite it every 4 years. So we're really pushing for that language to be changed and to make it inclusive for people like me.
Kristen, in that clip where you asked Buttigieg about his stance, he was honest and said he didn't want to trick you. He himself insisted that he was a pro-choice Democrat, but seemed to dodge your question over whether there's room in the party for pro-life Democrats. What did you think of his answer?
I think the most interesting part about his answer was he was speaking about his position on abortion, but that's not what I asked. I never asked where he stood on the issue itself, because quite clearly I knew where he stood. I knew he was pro-choice. I knew that he supported abortion rights. That wasn't the question. The question was, does he think there's room for people like me and Governor John Bel Edwards and all these pro-life Democrats around the country? And would he entertain rewriting the platform language to make it more inclusive for everybody? And, the answer appeared to be no.
Is this what seems to be unwavering support of abortion a new stance for the Democratic Party?
It's been gradually getting worse and worse with every platform written since 1976 was when it was first introduced into the platform. We had success with President Obama, his first term, in adding language that focused more on support for pregnant women and giving women more choices other than abortion and trying to find, reduce abortion in America. And we added that language, but the abortion industry, they were so upset with that they added that there was an unequivocal support for abortion. in the Democratic platform, and that has stayed there since then. It's this unequivocal, so there's no question about where the Democratic Party stands on it. So it's just gradually gotten worse and worse, and I think we're at a point now where we have to make a stand and say, either you are a big tent party that will include people like me, or you aren't. And so I think this is an important election for pro-life Democrats, and particularly to let their voices be heard. Ask the candidates the question where they stand on abortion, and do they think that there's room in the party for people who don't necessarily think abortion should be anything to be celebrated.
Senator Amy Klobuchar, she does take a more inclusive stance on that. Does her response to this issue, does it suffice for you?
You know, I think it's a step in the right direction, but again, they're words. So what are the actions? What steps will she take to make those words be true? Because anybody can say those words like, oh yes, we're a big tent party. You know, Nancy Pelosi has said we're a big tent party. But, you know, we have the Democratic Association of Attorney Generals applying a litmus test. Well, they will not support pro-life Democratic candidates. We have Act Blue, which is a big fundraising site for Democrats. They won't let Democrats for Life of America raise money on the site, even though the PAC wanted to raise money for pro-life Democratic candidates, Democrat candidates who are pro-life. So there has to be some steps taken to really lay out a clear space for pro-life Democrats to vote their conscience on this issue.
All right, Kristen Day, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
And finally tonight, one young actor with cerebral palsy has rolled down the red carpet in Hollywood many times.
But ABC's speechless actor Micah Fowler says his stride down Tim Tebow's night to shine felt like home.
And Fowler played a character with cerebral palsy for 3 seasons of the show. Last Friday, he was one of thousands with special needs crowned at Night to Shine.
What a great night. Well, thanks for joining us for Faith Nation.
Have a good evening.